sir, wait ಮಾಡೋಣ. Start, sir.
Yeah, we'll start. ಇದು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಗೋಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ಸರಿ ಆಗ್ತೈತಿ.
Okay. Okay, fine. Good evening, one and all. On behalf of ASI Hubli Dharwad City branch, I welcome you all for this fourth month virtual scientific session, mainly themed on diabetic foot. Today in India, we have almost 77 million diabetic patients. It's like just second highest to China. And it's not only a burden and a challenge to treat these diabetic foot diseases for a national healthcare system in India. Lifetime risk of developing a diabetic foot ulcer is somewhere around 15 to 25%. And among them, 85% of the amputations are preceded by the ulcers. So most of the cause is neuropathy in India, almost 85%. The peripheral vascular disease constitute only 20%. Annually, around 1 lakh amputations are done in India for diabetic foot diseases. So, how to prevent this? Today, we have two stalwarts working and managing these diabetic foot diseases in India. So, as a speaker for a today's scientific session. So, it's an honor for ASI Hubli Dharwad City branch to have them. So first, Dr. Arun Bal sir is going to speak on biomechanical examination in diabetic foot management. Sir is a consultant diabetic foot surgeon at Raheja and Hinduja Hospital, Mumbai, and is also a visiting faculty at Amrita Institute of Medical Science, Kochi. He is president of Diabetic Foot Society of India. And our next speaker is none other than Dr. Sunil V. Curry. Sir is a dedicated, oriented, and is passionate about his work. He has accepted this great challenge of diabetic foot salvage since 1984, almost 26 years experience. He has helped to save countless people from getting amputations and help them to get a quality of life with his newer techniques and healing touch. He is a senior consultant and diabetic foot surgeon and head department of diabetic foot limb salvage and visiting faculty at Taher and is the director of Mandakini Memorial Hospital. Sir is going to speak on preventing a diabetic foot ulcer, first a diabetic foot ulcer, and also a healing diabetic foot ulcer, and preventing diabetic foot ulcer recurrence. So the whole scientific session is moderated by Dr. S. Chandrasekhar. He's an honorary secretary, KSA, ASI. And now I request our president, Dr. Hebsur, sir, to welcome the speakers and members. Over to Hebsur, sir.
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to our Hubli Dharwad ASI branch. This is the July activity, and I'm really delighted that Dr. Arun Bal sir accepted our invitation to be with us today online, and Dr. Sunil Kari sir, who said he's going to be there with us. Both of them are great stalwarts. It is really a great pleasure to have them both of them in our tenure, and we are lucky to have them actually. I request our moderator, who is none other than my good friend and honorary secretary of KCSI, Dr. Chandrasekhar, to please moderate the session. Kindly introduce the guests, both the guests. Please introduce Dr. Arun Bal first, Bal sir first, and then later on, after the Arun Bal sir's lecture, we can go with Sunil Kari sir's talk. That time you can introduce sir. I welcome all the very senior faculty also, Dr. Sanjay, Dr. Sopimat sir, all the professors, Dr. Bakodi, Dr. Vijay Kamath, and I am seeing a lot of people joining slowly. I welcome all of you. I welcome all my PGs also, and I think so. I request our moderator, Dr. Chandrasekhar, to please start.
Dr. Sanjay Jain, sir, also.
Yeah, I welcome him.
Okay, Narayan. We'll start. Good evening, everybody. Today, actually, the topic is a nice topic. See, most dreaded nowadays is our diabetic foot ulcers and foot diseases. So today I welcome Dr. Arun Bal. Is well-known diabetic foot specialist from Mumbai. He is going to deliver a lecture on role of biomechanics in examination in diabetic foot management. And sir is actually graduated from Mumbai University in 1977, and he did a PhD in political science on healthcare as a human rights in 2005, and president of Association of Consumer Action on Safety and Health, involved in public health education since 1985, along with the Consumer International, ex-editor of Indian Journal of Medical Ethics, ex-convener of Ethics Committee, Medical Council of India from 2010 to 2013, the president of Diabetic Foot Society. Then is practicing diabetic foot surgery since 1986. Diabetic foot surgeon at Raheja and Hinduja Hospital, Mumbai. Visiting professors to Amrita Institute of Medical Science, Kochi, and secretary of International Association of Diabetic Foot Surgeons in Denmark, vice president of International Surgical Society of Limb Salvage, award and oration from Georgetown University Hospital, Washington, USA for major contribution in diabetic limb salvage, expert for diabetic foot guidelines of Ministry of Health, Government of India. And I request Dr. Arun Bal to take over and give a lecture on role of mechanic on diabetic foot. Sir, please.
Okay, good evening. Thanks to ASI Dharwad branch for inviting me. I'll just like to shut off my video because it is raining and Wi-Fi is not working. So I don't want a disruption in my presentation because both may not work.
Dr. Arun Bal sir, we have the pleasure of having our ASI president and the secretary. Dr. Dalvi sir is there with us. And ASI secretary, Dr. Sanjay sir is also there with us.
Okay. Thank you.
I welcome both of them.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Dalvi. Nice to see you here on the web.
Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
I'll share my screen. Okay. So what I'm going to talk is about biomechanical examination in diabetic foot management, which is not a very common topic taught in the medical colleges and undergraduate postgraduate education. So India is diabetes quake. This is the current phase of diabetes in India. You go to any hospital where diabetic patients are treated, at least 30 to 40% patients are for the conditions like this. Beautiful feet like this. When diabetes strikes and neuropathy start, this is what happens and which leads to amputation. I think we need to understand why this happens and then we can prevent the tragedy. So we have 74 million now. Just now, Dr. Chandrasekhar said it is 77 million. So the number keeps on changing like a stock market here. But taking this 74 million, we have 148 million feet to look after. As per whatever statistic DFSI has collected, there are 200,000 higher level amputation. But the greatest tragedy is that 85% of them are because of an infected neuropathic ulcers and completely preventable. So we must understand that diabetic foot ulcer in diabetes is not a surgical disease like hernia, hydrocele, appendix. It's a complication of medical disease. That's something which we need to keep in mind all the time. As the human being evolved during evolution and became erect, two things happened. The feet became longer, both contribute to diabetic foot problems. And the quadrupeds require feet for gripping ability, while bipeds like human being require for ability, which again creates a pressure. So pathobiomechanical changes due to advancing peripheral neuropathy is the main etiological factor, and non-enzymatic glycation, which changes characteristics of and function of skin, soft tissue and muscles of the foot, is another factor. So this is algorithm we have learned in the medical colleges. So every diabetic patients will go through this of various type of neuropathy, deformity. I think as a primary physician, and if the preventive measures are there for primary prevention, in spite of all this, if you keep the epidermal barrier skin intact, then patient can still be walking. The moment skin breaks down and forms the ulcer, the disease take different turn and becomes unmanageable. So regular and periodic physical examination of lower extremity as a primary preventive measure for the risk stratification is essential cornerstone of preventing diabetic foot ulcers. So this is a dictum we must remember: what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So you have to measure neuropathy by various means. But the simple thing, since we are talking about the biomechanical examination, see, most of the hospital and most of us don't see the patient walking. We see the patient either sitting or lying on the examination couch. So there are a lot of findings we miss. If the patient is neuropathic patient, then he has a high stepping gait. Many times slippers are coming out. If there is a foot drop, then there is a foot is scraping. There is many times patient is walking with a wound that tells you about neuropathy. And many times he may be limping, what is known as antalgic gait. So antalgic gait cannot be because of diabetic neuropathy. That should warn you that there is some other neurological problem. So what is a comfortable walking speed? This is a comfortable walking speed of every human being. And these are the factors when patient is walking, you must understand that is a stance, that is a posture, that is a velocity, step length, symmetry, cadence. Cadence is the number of steps per minute, and then fluidity of movement and instability and need for assistance. These you can easily make out just seeing the patient walking. Now, this is a very simple test to judge whether patient has a severe neuropathy. Just observation. You ask the patient to sit on a chair and get up without taking the support of the chair or hands of chair or any other support. And patient has to walk 3 meters and come back and sit in the chair. If we can do below 10 seconds, it is normal. Up to 14 seconds, there is some problem. About 20 seconds, there is a severe neuropathic problem. So what is the mechanism of neuropathic gait? So this is a cycle, walking cycle, which we have learned in the school, medical college, propulsion. Now, if you see this, I think this may not run. Okay, this is just a film to show you that the foot is very stable. Every human foot has a 27 bone, 29 joints, and whatever may be the surface speed, the foot does not waver. Nobody falls down. So this is the beauty of a normal foot. Sorry, this is not running because of internet problem. So normal foot axis of walking is along the second metatarsal, second toe, and the tendo Achilles holds the foot in a almost neutral position with a very mild pronation. Sorry. Just hold on. I think there is some problem in my internet. Shit. Just a minute. I'm restarting this. Just a minute. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I'll just go ahead. So if there's a normal walking cycle, there's a normal heel strike and the foot does not waver. And in case of a diabetes neuropathy, because the foot loses the sensory input motor controls, the foot may fall in the pronation or maybe in a supination. So one foot may fall in pronation, other in a supination. And then this was wobbling. Of course, this will not work. So I'll go ahead. So the peak plantar pressure at the takeoff stage, that is propulsion, is very high. It is about 600 kilopascals. So how high it is? At a 15 kilopascals, all the capillaries of the foot are shut off, and the normal person while walking at a propulsion state, there is some amount of anoxia and ischemia. But because of a normal sensory input, normal structure, there is an instant recovery. That instant recovery is delayed in diabetes because of a non-enzymatic glycation, progressive neuropathy, and loss of sensory motor control. And a delayed recovery means persistent anoxia, low grade, which causes a inflammation, which manifests as a warmth and erythema, which has a very great significance, because if you teach the patient to feel with the back of hand, the forefoot on the plantar aspect every day evening, and if it is warmer than the rest of the foot or leg, then he has reached at this stage, which is a danger sign. If he keeps on walking, the next stage in physiological cascade is a exudate, which manifests as a blister and breaks down and forms the ulcer. So the simple precaution, either with a back of hand now or with a corona, you have all these thermometers. If the patient checks the temperature, it will tell him that he is walking beyond the capacity of the leg. So another thing is that most of the medical teaching, combines sensory motor neuropathy as a one entity, but many times they may not run parallelly. So sensory neuropathy causes loss of sensation, inability to feel, increased pressure, and loss of position sense, and it causes change walking pattern and hyperpronation. While motor neuropathy causes muscle imbalance and weakness, it causes deformity, it causes change walking pattern, and it causes an important problem is a hyperpronation and an increased ground contact time at one first MTP joint, which is itself is a main problem why the ulcers occur on the first MTP joint. And this is a biomechanical parameter called impulse loading, which ultimately crosses 500 kilopascals and breaks the skin. Impulse loading is a product of ground contact time multiplied by the pressure. And you see classical example of this in all our ICUs, where diabetic patients are lying in the bed for a variety of reasons and their heel is touching the bed. So there is a prolonged contact time with a low pressure. Still the impulse loading crosses 500 kilopascals after about 48 to 72 hours. And first there is a redness, then blister, and then there is a ulcer. So such a tragedy can be easily prevented by keeping a pillow under the lower leg to elevate the heel. So the message is diabetic foot ulcer is a biomechanical problem, and no amount of antibiotic and dressing will heal the ulcer unless the pressure is reduced. And repetitive moderate force of routine unprotected day-to-day walking can damage the feet in diabetes in the presence of advancing neuropathy. So these are the changes which you see in a diabetic patients variety of changes you see in the foot. So this needs to be observed. And these are the things we need to see on the skin. What are the manifestations of the skin? So these are variety of manifestations occurs, and most of the times the patients are referred to dermatology. So there is a disconnect there. Dermatologists are not very well versed with the neuropathic manifestations of the skin. And you can see sometimes something like this bullosa diverticorum, which looks like a blister and it's treated as an infection. It is because of the uncontrolled blood sugar. Again, this is something which occurs only with a end-stage renal disease. So if you see a patient like this, you don't have to ask the patient that whether he is on a dialysis or he has an end-stage renal disease. This is 100% end-stage renal disease. So this is a furuncle. You see, again here, people use acupressure sleepers, and you can see these punctate pressure points occurring. They are dangerous. They can cause multiple areas of necrosis. And you have this, ulcers like this. Every ulcer on the lower leg is not. These are pyoderma gangrenosum and vasculitis. These are nail changes which occur. And these are many times they are treated for variety of reasons, but they are basically because of neuropathy. So the nail care is very important. Regular trimming of the nails after bath and cutting them straight and filing the edges prevent all these things. But these are directly related to advancing neuropathy. So this is something which I would like to show you, that if you see the bilateral first toenail dark or discolored, this is a very striking thing. Looking at this, you can make out that patient is wearing tight shoes with a narrow toe box, which causes pressure on the first toe. Then how do you do biomechanical examination? These are the basic things. So these are all well known, but this is something which is not well known. This is goniometer, which is nothing except the simple compass box protractor. So you have to measure the first toe extension in the standing position, which is usually 15. And if it is reducing, that's the earliest sign that there is going to limited joint mobility of the first MTP joint, and that is a candidate for future ulcer. There is also a simple test called Ipswich touch test. You don't need any equipment. You take your index finger and touch first, third, and a fifth toe. If patient cannot feel 2 out of these 3, then that is a foot at risk. So foot is a very energy efficient machine. Normal person doesn't get cons, calluses, and this energy efficient machinery and quality is lost. Now, how do you decide whether the foot will collapse? If you take once a year the X-ray like this, it's a simple AP view, and if you notice here, there is a gap between first and second cuneiform, which is not there anatomically. Anatomically, cuneiforms are tightly packed. And if you draw the line like this, and the angle is C, is known as a angle of adductus primus in podiatry, which is 3 degrees. If it is a widening, that's the earliest sign of a future Charcot foot. This is a low triangle, how human foot bears the weight. Normally the weight bearing is along the second metatarsal skin, and judge it. You just keep the patient in supine position, foot in a neutral, and from tibial tubercle, draw the line which should go to the second toe. If it diverges laterally, that is the earliest sign that the midfoot is separating. So such a simple test you can make without X-ray, and you know this patient is heading for a Charcot foot. Most of the time this is missed, and then patients keep on walking and it breaks down and forms a Charcot foot. Now this is another biomechanical problem which we face. Many times we do forefoot. As I said, foot is a very biomechanical structure. The fulcrum is formed by the joint, pulley is formed by the gastrocnemius soleus. Normally 2/3 of the foot is in front of the fulcrum. When you reduce and make it half, the strength of the pulley is same. So the foot goes into plantar flexion. Patient starts walking on a small area and it breaks. So you have to simultaneously do the tendon balancing and correct the balance. Again, this is a normal axis of metatarsal heads. When there is an intrinsic muscle weakness, there is an apparent lengthening of the second toe, and the second metatarsal or third metatarsal become prominent. How to detect that this patient is heading for an ulcer? You again keep the patient in neutral position with the foot in neutral and drop the line from each metatarsal. The line should touch the heel skin. You have seen Mason dropping the line to see the level of wall, something like that. If that line falls in the front, that metatarsal is malaligned. So you have variety of choices right from conservative footwear to surgery. And these are the angles which you need to test. As I said, the first MTP joint becomes stiff, and then the extension reduces. Underneath that is a pad of fat which moves forward, and the joint is covered only by the neuropathic skin, and the skin breaks down and forms the ulcer. So that is why majority of the foot ulcers are on the first MTP joint. Now, many times you don't have to check also. If you see patient's footwear, you can make out that he is heading for an ulcer. Normally, when we purchase a closed footwear, you will find that within few weeks, we get a horizontal creases because all MTP joint move together. When one starts moving late, there is an oblique crease, and that should warn you that this is a patient who is heading for a problem. So this is a biomechanical examination. See, when first thing is that measure the circumference of the calf. If the circumference of the calf is not equal, one is less, that is not because of diabetic neuropathy, it is because of usually spinal problem. This is a normal stance of a diabetic neuropathic patient. These you see a deformity, crowding toes, dilated veins, same thing here. Now, many times you have a lot of equipment for sensory neuropathy, but there is no real good equipment, cheaper equipment for motor neuropathy. So the simple test is you keep the patient in supine position and ask him to hold your index finger in a first and second toe and try to pull it. If he holds the toes straight and holds it, it is a good power. If he bends the toes and you can easily pull out, it's a moderate power. So this is a simple examination which tells you whether the intrinsic muscles are weak. Again, for the edema, many times diabetic patients get a edema, unilateral edema. Now you want to find out whether it is a lymphatic edema or it is a neuropathic edema or a Charcot foot. If it is a lymphatic edema, you cannot pick up the skin on the dorsum of the second metatarsophalangeal joint, which is known as a Stemmer's test. If you can pick it up, it cannot be lymphatic, it has to be neuropathic. Then this is known as a Coleman's block test, where for a 1.5 to 2 inch block, you ask the patient to stand and you will find that the foot is changing. So this is about the tibialis posterior. Same, this is a test. Again, many times you have to have a 4-foot ulcers treated. And you want to know what is the cause. If you cannot find any orthopedic or a bone cause, you have to see whether there is a tendon imbalancing. For that, first is a tendo Achilles. So supine position, you try to do extension. If there is some extension, then you fold the knee and do it. If extension increases, that means it is the gastrocnemius fascia which is tight. So you have to do a gastroc resection. Then this is how the neuropathic foot looks. There is other sign called too many toe signs. You see the patient standing from behind, and normally you should not be able to see the lateral toes. If you see that, that means it is a medial column collapse. Similarly, this is a single heel lift test. Again, same thing for a medial collapse, and this is for a fixed varus. So you have to do the footwear examination, which is very important. And these are all footwear which are used, which are wrong footwear, but especially Hawaii slippers are very popular in India, but they are very damaging for the patients of neuropathy. You can see the patient is standing and then he tries to walk, he's holding it tightly. So either he will get a web space injury or his toes will deform early. So this is the pressure. So if the patient is allowed to walk without checking neuropathy faster, many patients tell me that they walk for miles together, then the 4-foot pressure causes 500 to 700 kilopascals, and that patient develops foot problem. So in patients with diabetic peripheral neuropathy, you must teach the patient to measure the distance, not in kilometers, but in they have to walk 15-20 minutes, sit for 5 minutes and walk again to prevent the excessive. And these are the conditions where these exercise should not be done. So it is a job of that and change the exercise schedule. So adequate and proper understanding of diabetic peripheral neuropathy and altered biomechanics is essential for preventing higher level amputation. Diabetic foot is these patients are vulnerable because of these three causes: neuropathy, immunopathy, altered biomechanics. And you have a very narrow window of opportunity to treat it. As of today, mostly we miss it because we have unwritten policy in our country, which is no complaint, no examination. Because patients don't complain anything about foot, we don't see their feet. So diabetic foot is a Cinderella of medicine. And you can see the statistics. Indian infected diabetic foot ulcer will spend 50% of his annual income on treatment. So this is a 2 minutes or 3 minutes examination advocated by American Diabetic Association. And these are the 4 clinics set up by Diabetic Foot Society of India 14 years back in 4 public sector hospitals, managed purely by paramedic for a preventive examination. So amputation prevention in 21st century is team, technology, and tenacity. So you have acute coronary units, you have stroke units. So you need a very comprehensive acute diabetic foot units in every hospital where diabetic patients are there, because time is a tissue. More time you lose, tissue is going to be lost. And you should have a concept of toe and flow. Every patient with ulcer, his vascularity must be tested. And callus is like a benign breast lump. You cannot keep it. You have to excise it because it is either a forerunner of ulcer or it hides the ulcer. Also, as I said, this is a complication of a medical disease. So as long as medical disease is running in background, there is never really a cure for a foot ulcer. So you must bring in the concept of remission and a 5-year ulcer-free survival. Otherwise, our patients will keep on getting recurrence and we will keep on doing higher level amputation. And rapid closure of the wounds are essential because activity and mobility is equivalent to longevity. If you keep patient off the feet for a longer time, so your aim should be to heal the wound rapidly and faster. And foot needs to be considered as a separate target organ for primary prevention of a foot ulcers. Diabetes is, in diabetology, it is eyes, heart, and kidney which are well considered as a target organ, but hardly foot is considered as a target organ. And only early detection and high protection of a high pressure areas in the foot and corrective footwear is the only strategy when you have millions of patients. So what you need is not a equipment, a sensitive pair of eyes and hands. And as the mobile technology increases, you will find India has 700 million mobile users. So you will find the biomechanics. Thank you. I would like to end by showing you this very old Sanskrit saying, which means one who walks his fortune marches ahead. And we want all those millions of patients' fortunes to march ahead. So we need to keep their feet intact. Thank you. Sorry for delaying because of this internet problem. My apologies.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, please put up in a chat box. We'll discuss after the second class. So, now we'll go to second topic, that is preventing first diabetic foot ulcer, healing of diabetic foot ulcer, and preventing a diabetic foot recurrence, ulcer recurrence. So it will be done by our Dr. Sunil Vasudev Kari. He is a senior consultant and diabetic foot surgeon at Diabetic Limb Salvage Department, Managing Director of Mandakini Medi Engineering Health Private Limited, Lead Consultant at Sau Mandakini Memorial Clinic, Diabetic Limb Salvage and Chronic Wound Care Center, Hubli, Karnataka. Visiting faculty at KLE Academy of Higher Education and Research Center, Belagavi, and Joint Secretary of Diabetic Foot Society of India. He is a life member of Indian Medical Association, Association of Surgeons of India, Association of Rural Surgeons of India, Research Society for the Study of Diabetes in India, Diabetic Foot Society of India, and is a life member of Association of Diabetic Foot Surgeons, Denmark, a Venus Association of India, International Foot and Ankle Biomechanics Community, Asia Pacific Association for Diabetic Limb Problem, Wound Healing Society. Now I request Dr. Sunil V. Curry to take up and deliver his lecture. As diabetic foot ulcer, almost annual incidence is about 2%. So most of the people with the diabetes, they present with started with the cracks and progress to ulcer and infection and gangrene. So it is a nice topic. So I'll welcome our Dr. Sunil to present his lecture.
Good evening. At the outset, let me thank Hubli Dharwad Surgical Chapter for inviting me and Professor Bal sir for this today's evening talk on diabetic foot. And I thank the moderator, Professor Chandrasekhar sir, for the kind introduction. And let me go through my topic. I think I'll be taking on. Hope it is going to work. Yeah. So, Association of Surgeons of India, Hubli Dharwad chapter, thank you for the virtual monthly meeting, the way you have invited us. And this is one of the very interesting topic which is going to be now. Prevention of first foot ulcer in diabetes, healing the foot ulcer in diabetes, preventing foot ulcer recurrence in diabetes. These are three important points. And these three are different sciences. One has to understand it. Prevention of a foot ulcer is a different science. Healing foot ulcer is a different science. And preventing foot ulcer recurrence is also a different science. So basically, I'm working on this area since so many years, as moderator has introduced, and really it has been a challenging area. So what is first foot ulcer? Is it a medical problem? Is it worse than a cancer? These two questions have to be answered by every one of us. And look at diabetic foot ulcer. It is not a medical problem. This ulcer is due to nail prick or a thorn prick? No, it is not. It is a mechanical problem. As sir has already explained you how the biomechanics gets disturbed in diabetes because of neuropathy. So it is not outside in injury. It is inside out injury. The bone is hitting the ground repeatedly. Repeated moderate forces are hitting the ground and breaking the skin. This is the commonest DFU what we see in day-to-day practice. DFU is worse than a cancer. I'm going to prove this. As sir told you, plantar callus is equal to lump in a breast. Look at three flags which have kept it over there. Both are very common, both are very complex, and both are very costly. We are going to discuss on foot. Common, complex, costly issue. How common it is? Every 1.2 seconds, someone develops a diabetic foot ulcer. How complex it is? There is no cure in diabetic foot. The level of challenge is very high. The level of skill is very high. And the outcomes you can't predict. This is the only condition in medical fraternity where there is no cure. You can bring only some kind of an arrest in a progression of a disease. Diabetic foot disease, the myth is every doctor keeps on, surgeon keeps on telling the patient that I will cure you. The fact is there is no cure in diabetic foot. There is only an arrest. As long as patient walks, he is going to break his feet. Let us look at cost of care. As long as diabetic foot is taken care, protection, reference in a right way, the CPR score, what we call, every physician or a surgeon has a good CPR score, timely references, then there is no much cost involved. The moment there is a delay in reference, the cost escalates. The late referral leads to highest morbidity and mortality, and patient loses the limb. Look at the study by Professor David Armstrong, the 5-year mortality and direct cost of care for people with diabetic foot complications are compared to the cancer. You can look at this photograph, wherein lung cancer and only major amputation remains the next. If we continue with the present knowledge, what we are working on, diabetic foot, in next 10 years, the major amputation is going to replace this lung cancer. This is how the things are moving very fast. And you can see Charcot, ulcer, minor amputations, and critical limb-threatening ischemia. All these are occupied by diabetic foot conditions. So we need to improve whatever is happening. We have to prevent, and we have to go for something new. Ulcers, metastasis in remission. Once it heals, it is going to have recurrence. So 84% of recurrences occur in different anatomic locations. 48% of these are contralateral. We have excellent TNM classification for cancer. We have a WIFI classification for diabetic foot. Meet WIFI, can we preserve this limb? The first question we need to address across globe. We need to have a common kind of a classification wherein wound, ischemia, and foot infection are taken into consideration. And there are 0, 1, 2, 3. Accordingly, you get permutation combination as a W1, I2, FI3, or you get W3, I2, or FI3. All these can be predicted, but most important thing is, should we preserve this limb? Is it going to be functional? Can that patient walk in a community? Can he walk at home? Can he transfer himself from one room to another room? Or he's going to be bedridden? This is going to be a very important issue. One has to decide when you're planning for a preservation. Let's look at Dharwad district. All of us, I think we are more than 200 general surgeons. So diabetic foot first ulcers in Dharwad district. If I take 20 lakh as a population, 10% are diabetic. That is around 2 lakh people already are there in Dharwad. And 25% of them will have an ulcer. Already there is a first ulcer, 50K. 50,000 ulcers are moving around. Every surgeon, if I take all doctors, I came to know through duty that there are around 1,000 doctors, IMA members are there. So everyone will have a 50 patients per day. And look at, out of that 50% gets infected. So infected 25 patients are there in your OPDs. And look at the amputations. 20% of this, 25K, 25,000 are getting amputated as minor or major. So it's a big number what Dharwad is looking at. Look at North Karnataka. PCR voting population, 30 lakh diabetic, 7.5 lakh ulcer patients, 3.75 lakh infection, 80K amputation. It's a big number, big number. Now look at this amputation prevention, an indicator of best healthcare system. This is an index. Suppose an institute or a corporate hospital has got excellent limb salvage in diabetes. That is rated as number 1. 80% of people with diabetes are from low and middle income. Every 7 seconds, someone dies from diabetes. Every 20 seconds, someone is amputated. By the time I finish my lecture, I think 20 minutes are given by Dr. Ebsur. I think every minute 4 are taken out into 80 limbs have been amputated across globe, somewhere, some part of the globe. Look at diabetic foot syndrome. If you look at common, complex, costly, the burden, global burden, the diabetic foot and lower extremity complications stand number 10 now. The first one is backache, third one is depression, sixth is diabetes, 10th is diabetes and lower limb complications. Look at diabetic foot ulcer facts. Can somebody mute? Can somebody mute?
Asha, please mute everybody.
Somebody, I think, is talking on. Okay, diabetic foot ulcer facts. Please look at this fact, which all of you, I want you to know this. The risk of death at 10 years for a patient with diabetes who has had an ulcer is twice as high as risk of a patient who hasn't had a foot ulcer. That means, suppose I have a patient and he develops an ulcer, he is going to die within 10 years, and that risk is very high. Diabetic foot ulcer doubles the mortality and heart attack risk while increasing risk of stroke also. The most important, 1/3 of patients seeking care for ischemic wounds will die with an unhealed wounds. Very, very important issues. These are proved research facts. Silent sinister syndrome. 90% of people with the diabetes, they don't know that they have a neuropathy. They are unaware. So we need to prevent first ulcer. It's a huge burden. So now step 2, what I'm going to do, what model or what module we have to take care of diabetic foot. Every foot in diabetes is normal first. Then there is a neuropathy. Then there is a vasculopathy. Then there is ulcer. Then it gets infected. Then there is amputation. Means there is a stairway of amputation. At every step, if you are rendering excellent care, you are going to salvage the limb. The most important thing here is footwear care, which is very, very important for us. And what we know since past 35 years, the first meeting on diabetic foot was conducted in 1986 in Melbourne, because UK was the only country which could see maximum number of diabetic who are surviving more than 90 years. So what we know, 2019 International Working Group on Diabetic Foot guidelines have made it very clear that categorization 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, they have included this 2019 PAD, peripheral arterial disease, has to be checked regularly. If there is no PAD, then only it is 0. Earlier, it was only LOPS, loss of protective sensation was included. Now it is arterial. And the important high we have included this year, CKD. Patient with renal problem, whether he has normal foot, still it is high risk. And for me, the most important thing in India is very high barefoot walk and worn out footwear. This is very important what I see in day-to-day practice. And I have been part of Rural Surgeons of India. And this is what is our biggest problem. 80% of India is barefoot. Now, what didn't go well in last 35 years? Research in diabetic foot. Prevention of first ulcer, we don't know much about it. Healing of an ulcer, we have been doing great job, but we are unable to prevent the recurrence. We do handle callus, pre-ulcer, heal the ulcer, but there is a 30-40% of recurrence. What we understand in the research is the commonest clinical triad, more than 63% of diabetic foot ulcers are because of accumulation of component causes to form a sufficient cause. What are those component causes? Neuropathy, deformity, and minor trauma. And the time is only factor which ends up with forming a causal chain, completed causal chain to form an ulcer. So what is my role? My role is I have to understand that I can prolong or see that neuropathy can be prevented by having excellent glucose control, number one. Deformities can be accommodated in a footwear or you can correct by surgery. And to prevent minor trauma, you have to address whether the foot is at low risk, medium risk, or high risk. Let us look at how best we can work on pathophysiology. Outside in trauma is nail, thorn, or footwear injuries. Inside out trauma because of limited joint mobility, what Professor Balsar has told you already, and bony deformities. And this is how the illustration of ulcer due to repetitive stress. There is a callus, subcutaneous hemorrhage under that. Then there is a breakdown of the skin, and there is deep infection and osteomyelitis. So it is the most energy efficient machine. This energy efficiency is lost in diabetes due to neuropathy. What we read in our textbooks is a normal foot. And what is diabetic foot? It is a compromised foot. It doesn't have nerve supply. It doesn't have vascular supply. And it is with immune deficiency, immunopathy rather. So this foot misbehaves. It is a compromised foot. A trivial trauma ends up with ulceration, callosity, chronic ulcer, and gets infected and forms a gangrene. To prevent the first ulcer, you have to have excellent blood glucose control. Deformative correction surgeries, you can plan it or you can accommodate in a footwear. Foot care and footwear care, these are the three important steps you have to do. As a surgeon, when you see a callus, you have to trim it. And after you trim that callus, if you don't want the recurrence to happen, then you have to understand this new focus. All of us in the last 35 years have been working on acute offloading. as sir told us, it is not important to dress a wound. It is very important to how best you can offload the body weight in that area. So when you offload it or you have debrided a callus, you don't want the callus to form again, then you need to design a long-term preventive offloading. The problem doesn't end with healing and offloading. Healed foot ulcers frequently recur. So you need to define ourselves what could be the long-term preventive offloading. Footwear care, very important. When we see patients in our day-to-day OPD practice, many are barefoot. When I shout at them, they come out with worn-out footwear. These 2 points are very, very important, and they are the basic cause for ulcerations. All of us in our childhood, we have done this, wearing left footwear in our right and right footwear in our left. But this is very dangerous in diabetes, where I always ask my patient to sit in front of me, take out footwears and socks, and then we examine, as sir told you, to get up and walk for a few steps, get analysis, and then feet examination. You can see here the patient doesn't understand, and he is not aware that he is wearing left footwear on the right foot and right footwear on the left side. All of us have to make it a point wearing a gloves, taking out insole, what footwear he is using. 90% of the footwears don't have a proper foot insole. For the outer sole, there is a thorn. It is pricking the heel and he ends up with ulceration. Very, very interesting here, where I was shocked to see left footwear size is 9 and right footwear size is 8. When I asked the patient, why are you using this? So he said, sir, left is having edema, so I have to go for a bigger size. So look at it. Every patient is so intelligent, he makes all the attempts. And as sir told you, that this is to be avoided in all neuropathy patients, which leads to maximum problem. Now, what is the ideal footwear for diabetic patients? A roomy toe box, seamless top, velocrep grip, padded tongue, rigid outer sole, extra depth, firm heel counter, padding around the ankle, and 9 mm thick insole. Very important. The types of diabetic foot surgery, what I'm going to discuss with you are the two. The prophylactic surgery is what we practice, and the curative surgeries. Because today I'm not going to deal on emergency and the rest of the surgeries. Last two prophylactic surgeries to prevent the first ulcer is to see that the deformities like claw, hammer, mallet toes, we go for flexor tendon tenotomies. And you can see here, the straightening of the toes leads to prevention of the ulceration. Healing and preventing foot ulcer recurrence in diabetes, I take it as a joint, both together, because it's very important to us as a surgeon. If you only have a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. The moment you look at an ulcer, you think that I should operate. That should not be the approach. Guidelines and protocols of 2019 have made it very clear that we have got three types rather. One is non-plantar ulcer, plantar forefoot and midfoot ulcer, and hindfoot ulcers. So accordingly, all the guidelines have been laid. In plantar forefoot, midfoot ulcer, they have made it very clear that infection ischemia, mild, moderate, and severe. These are the three categories. Mild, moderate, possible, you can plan non-surgical management. Severe, attend to the severity first for the infection and a vascular problem, and then you plan again for the offloading techniques, non-surgical. So let us go as per the guideline. So non-plantar diabetic foot ulcer, use removable ankle-high offloading device or a footwear modification, toe spacers or orthosis, depending on type and location of the foot ulcer. So this is the guideline. So I have not done any surgery in this patient. This patient came to me. He had acute Charcot, and local surgeon thought that it is cellulitis. He put an incision. And you can see the lateral end of the fibula is protruding through the wound. And there is total subluxation, medial rotation of the ankle joint. And now the foot is totally deformed. We are planning first line of management is without surgery, non-surgical offloading. So we did acute non-surgical offloading with PTB, patellar tendon brace. We didn't allow the foot to ground, and you can see excellent healing in 100 days. And once it is done, you have to think of long-term offloading. We designed a customized crow shoe and patient is absolutely normal. We are planning to see that there is no recurrence. Now let us look at forefoot diabetic foot ulcers, wherein we are not planning any surgery, we are planning offloading. So we did ankle high offloading device. Within 100 days, the wound has healed. And long-term offloading device, we designed customized footwear to accommodate this bi-walled ankle high offloading device. Midfoot diabetic foot ulcer. So we planned again offloading device and bi-walled ankle high offloading device. 100 days, everything has healed. And we designed a customized footwear which can accommodate this. So if something is healing without surgery, you have to plan that first, because the evidence across the globe is for these offloading devices rather than surgical techniques. So let us look at hindfoot ulcer, very difficult to heal ulcers. We planned ankle high offloading device, and you can see very clearly the heel ulcer has healed, and we have accommodative footwear for that. Recommended footwear to heal a plantar ulcers. Now, if this is not happening with this, then you plan with a footwear which can heal an ulcer. So let us look at what is crow shoe, what is anterior wedge shoe, what is rocker bottom shoe, what is posterior wedge. Crow means Charcot restrained orthotic walker. All forefoot ulcers, if you are using anterior wedge, where there is no landing, grounding of the great toe area or forefoot area, the ulcer heals. Midfoot ulcers, yes, you can plan for a crow, and later after 1 year, rocker bottom foot. And a heel ulcer, if you are using posterior wedge shoe, within 100 days, the ulcer heals well. Now, when you go to rural segment, these are all very difficult to buy. So economical and effective way of offloading, which I have been presenting across many conferences. When I saw this patient who was coming from local village Hepsur, and he was unable to afford anything. I just saw his footwear. He had a maximum wear and tear at the first MTPJ. So I usually buy this silicone insole. This is available 1 feet by 1 feet sheet. And I cut it by 1 inch by 1 inch, which will cost him 5 rupees. And I replaced there. Look at the healing. It heals within 100 days. But he has to use it continuously whenever he is upright. Now let us look at if forefoot ulcers are not healing with all these non-surgical techniques, then only you have to plan for curative surgery, that is class 3 surgery, surgical offloading techniques, wherein we plan metatarsal head resections, then Achilles tendon lengthening, and joint arthroplasties are done. Let us look at what all we have done. For this, we did IP joint correction. This is for second metatarsal head resection. You can see when first MTPJ resection was done, and for fifth MTPJ, where we can see clear-cut workup, and here we did the resection of this metatarsal head, and it has healed well. But these are all acute. Now we have to think of long-term. Long-term, you have to plan for 30-degree forefoot anterior wedge footwears. That is going to offload for a long term to prevent the recurrence. Class 3 surgeries for midfoot ulcers. The commonest is cuboid in a Charcot foot which hits the ground. We took out the cuboid, we did primary closure, everything healed, but long-term offloading is mandatory in a crow shoe. Heel ulcer, we planned curative surgery, we took out partial calcaneum, primary closure, everything healed, then long-term offloading, customized footwear. So TA lengthening and acute offloading, you can see a forefoot ulcer where there was a tight tender Achilles, we did a tender Achilles lengthening, it became absolutely normal, it healed, but patient had no recurrence only with crow shoes. There are a few takeaways for all the PGs because Dr. Hepsur told me I need to give some kind of motivation to all the young PGs who are there in Karnataka Institute of Medical Science and SDM. The most important takeaways are DFU and antibiotics. No clinical sign of infection, no infection. Please chat this mantra. No infection, no culture. No clinical infection, no antibiotics. If you keep on shooting antibiotics on all these patients, then they end up with MDR, multi-drug resistant. If the ulcer gets infected, then what should be the antibiotic? If it is acute, he is landing to you day one. He hasn't gone to anybody. And if it is a neuropathic, then it is always gram positive. If it is ischemic foot, then it is gram negative infection. If it is neuroischemic, which is a big number now, there is a paradigm shift. Earlier, we used to see 85 as a neuropathic, 15 as a ischemic. Now, since last 10 years, we are seeing 45 plus as a neuroischemic. It is called paradigm shift. And if it is a chronic DFU, let it be neuropathy, ischemic or neuroischemic, he has attended so many doctors, then it is always gram negative. So it's the concept of killing a snake. You can't kill a snake by hitting at a tail. You have to hit at head. You have to have this proper concept. The next challenge is bilateral diabetic foot. So far in 30 years, we have been seeing unilateral foot, but now it is going to be a bilateral. And you can see here, we are already facing this in a big number. And this was taken care in our center, and he has been back to normal. The most important takeaway, there is no cure in diabetic foot. As long as patient walks, he is going to breath. So that means a new prescription is going to come in next 5 years, that number of steps per day, every doctor is going to write to the high-risk feet. It is going to be a temporary arrest. Ulcer-free days are your indicator of success and outcomes of your surgeries. Don't blame diabetes for all your bad outcomes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kari sir. Now, it's open for question answer. So one question in the chat box about footwear, sir.
Yeah.
When a patient with a diabetes comes in initial years and we counsel him regarding foot care, what are the types of footwear we must advise and where can we get them? This is a question by one of our members. Please, sir.
Sir, would you like to take this, sir, or shall I?
No, you go ahead, Sunil. I will add if required.
Yeah. Okay. See, basically, regarding footwear is a new science which every surgeon, every healthcare physician has to know about it. And when you have examined a foot, and as sir has told you, what biomechanical examination, biomechanics is very important. And once you have labeled them as a high risk or medium risk or a low risk feet, accordingly footwear has to be planned. For a low risk feet, you can always advise a footwear wherein it is sort of a sandal. Slippers are ruled out, as sir has told you very clearly. Anything strap, web infections, and the toe tips are getting unnecessary ulcers. So you have to use sandal pattern, and which gets open totally, and the patient keeps the feet in that. The insole, either it is MCR, MCT, or there are varieties of materials available now. Evazode, Plastazode, Poron, so many are there. And outer sole has to be rigid, as I told you, ideal footwear. And the medium and high risk invariably has to be customized. You can't just tell them that you go and wear this footwear. No. High risk has got a lot of issues to be addressed, so it has to be customized. Now, where to availability? It is available, freely available. There are so many companies which are coming out with diabetic footwears. And for low risk, they are available. For high risk, it has to be customized.
Okay, I'll just add two things. Yeah. See, most of the people go to the market and purchase the shoes without asking the doctor. So that has to be, counseled. You can't just tell them to go ahead and purchase the footwear like that, even if in an early stage of diabetes. But as the neuropathy progresses, the leg by evening gets swollen up. So if the person purchases the footwear in the morning, by evening his foot is one size more. So it is preferable that patient purchases the footwear in the evening. And always you have to have a footwear, toes don't get pressed, the toes remain separate. So these are few precautions patients can take. And then also one other economical factor is that, see, most of the diabetic footwear have a very high GST now. Government has made leprosy footwear without GST, but diabetic footwear has still GST. Now this, in spite of Diabetic Foot Society's campaign and a lot of petitions, has not changed. It is ultimately in the hands of Union Finance Ministry. So a lot of lobbying has to be done.
Okay. Sir, anybody to ask question? It's open.
They can unmute and ask questions.
Yeah.
Sir, may I? I'm Dr. Kalaivani here.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Good
madam.
evening, sir. Sir, really very, very useful topic for all of us, because most of the patients come to general surgeons, and I think it's high time we took this very seriously. My question was on the peripheral arterial disease, sir. Like the incidence, is it really going to directly affect or detecting peripheral arterial diseases well in advance? Is it going to prevent or help in any way? Was my little concern.
I think I told you in categorization, risk categorization from International Working Group on Diabetic Foot. Every 4th year, we have a guidelines and protocols which are printed and given all across 161 countries in all their languages. So it has been made very clear. Earlier, 30 years, we used to look at for lobes. If no lobes, we used to put him as 0. If there is a lobes, then we used to put as a grade category 1. Now it is peripheral arterial disease is not there, then only that patient is put into 0. So it is very important because there is a neuroischemia group has increased in a big number. There is a paradigm shift. 45%, more than 45% of the foot, what we see in day-to-day practice are neuroischemic.
Yes, yes. I had also published one paper where it says around 29% had peripheral arterial disease among diabetics. So what your point is well taken, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir,
I'd like to add something. Sir? Yeah. See, the regular measurement of ankle brachial index as a primary preventive strategy by a paramedic is very important. The circulation never stops suddenly, except now in COVID. But otherwise, there is always sliding down of ankle brachial. So earliest sign patient is heading for a problem. That is the time you need to do duplex Doppler, see whether there are plaques developing, and at that stage, if you put a patient on antiplatelets and other drugs, then probably he will not require anything further, along with foot care.
Yes, sir. Very, very useful information, sir. This is.
Sir, Arun sir, I am Dr. Chandrasekhar, sir. Sir, whether this post-COVID has any chance of increased incidence of diabetic foot cases, sir?
See, not diabetic foot per se, but over the last 1 year, 3 months now, we have seen more than 25 cases where either patient had a history of COVID or patient is asymptomatic, where he suddenly comes with a thrombosis of the major vessels like femoral, popliteal, and in a sepsis. And those out of this 25, at least 10 patients had no history of COVID. So we did their antibody test, they were high. So obviously they were asymptomatic COVID patients. So this is something important for all physicians who are treating COVID, is to keep them on follow-up and just check their leg circulations, because it is you can easily just see the palpable pulse. But if they are diabetic, I think you can just check with handheld Doppler, because out of this 25, we had to amputate at least 15. 5 died before we could do anything, and 5 we could salvage.
Okay, thank you. Sir, one more thing, sir. Does this lockdown effect on diabetic foot, sir?
So lockdown affects because patients don't come on time. They come very late. There is no referral. They are sitting at home. They try to do video consultation. They try to send you photos on WhatsApp, but that doesn't work. In a diabetic patients with a foot ulcer, video consultation has a very limited value. You cannot do many things. and examine the food. So they are coming late to the hospitals or to the specialty center or even to any physician. So that has a big impact on this outcome.
Yes, sir. In Mysore, I'm having on statistics, sir. Actually, in the month of July, we have done 15 amputations, sir. Almost 14 cases are diabetic foot only, sir. Because of a lockdown effect, they didn't come as you told. So almost only two for other causes, and 14 cases out of 15, they are usually because of diabetic only.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, thank you, sir. It was an excellent talk. Thank you, sir. I have one small question. Because we, as soon as a person is detected diabetic, if at all they come to a surgeon or any physician, do you suggest him to have a particular footwear? What type of footwear he should go for?
Every patient who is detected diabetic, as I said, see, when the patient is detected diabetic, most of the diabetologists do, heart workup, they do the kidney workup, they do the eye workup, but they never check the foot. So foot has to be checked clinically. And to find out, it takes only 3 minutes. If you have a trained paramedic or a nurse, she can check it in 3 minutes whether the patient has some serious problem. And then he have to give him a care about the skin. See, most of the time neuropathy causes, autonomic neuropathy causes, destruction of sebum and sweat glands, and the skin becomes dry.
Right.
And so that is why you need to, clean the foot and apply moisturizer, wear socks and sandals. All these simple sandals, rubber sandals without any metal, buckles or anything, one with a simple cotton socks are sufficient. But every follow-up visit, a diabetologist must look at the feet, whether the nails are cut properly. All this I can understand doctors cannot do, but they must have a paramedic who can be trained within 15 days to do all these things. In fact, Amruta Institute is running for last 19 years a course of diabetic foot assistant, where we take even SSC passed boys and girls and train them for 1.5 years, and they do everything, including assisting surgeries and do all sophisticated tests, dressing, callus debridement, and many of them have got a job in Gulf also. So it's just a question of training. I think we must remember, I don't know whether everybody knows actually the person who started management science was a Peter Drucker in America, who started this MBA degrees and all many years back. So in his biography, he has written that he strongly believes that if trainer and trainee is willing, anybody can be trained for anything.
It is said, no, sir, if you take care of your feet like a face, your foot is always with you. Otherwise, you lose your foot.
Yeah, that's true.
Dr. Absur.
Yes, sir.
I have been listening to Professor Bal sir since past so many years. The lines which I just want to repeat in this webinar. Foot doesn't know what to do in diabetes. Footwear has to do a job of a foot. This is what sir has taught us. So you need to understand this footwear science in a right way.
Sir, one more question, sir. One more question in the chat box. One doubt, sir. What are the drugs that would help in preventing further peripheral vascular disease? Do tablet silestrazole, tablet diltiazem make a significant difference, significant enough to continue lifelong? Please,
yes,
sir.
See, as I said, once you do ankle brachial index, and then if it is reducing, going below 0.9, or patient has some cardiac issues, then you need to do a color arterial Doppler of the lower limbs. And if it shows the plaques, then simple thing you can give is start an ecospirin. Or if it is many blocks, then you can start a ecospirin and clopidogrel. Silestrazole is only useful, it improves the collateral circulation, but it has to be given carefully in a patient who have a cardiac problem. So low dose has to be given and you have to monitor them. Ideally, it is given for 6 to 9 months and stopped, while aspirin, clopidogrel, you have to continue.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was
So
both the talks were excellent, sir, and really it was eye opener for all the surgeons. I feel Dr. Bal sir and Dr. Curry have given an excellent presentation. Very good, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, sir.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
thank you, sir.
Chandrasekhar, for moderating, sir. I request our Dr. Suresh to please present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Today, come to an end of today's meeting. On behalf of ASI Hubli Dharwad, my sincere thanks to today's speakers, Dr. Arun Bal sir and Dr. Sunil Curry sir, for their excellent and informative lecture on diabetic foot biomechanics and the management. And I would like to extend my thanks to Dr. S. Chandrasekhar sir, the Secretary KSC ASI, for moderating the whole scientific section smoothly. And I extend my thanks to National ASI President Dr. Abhay Dalvi sir, who doesn't miss any of the webinars, and also Honorable Secretary Dr. Sanjay Jain sir also. And all the National EC members, Dr. Shivram sir, Dr. Sopimat sir, Dr. Lakshman sir, and State Treasurer Dr. Chandrasekhar sir, and other members from the other branches like Kolhapur, Pune, and even the Goa for attending the whole scientific session. And finally, I thank our President, Dr. Hepsur sir, and all the EC members of ASI Hubli Dharwad City branch for helping me to organize today's scientific session. And a warm thanks to our PGs, both KIMS Hubli and also SDM Medical College Dharwad, for attending the whole scientific session. Finally, thanks to the office bearers of KSC ASI for providing this Zoom platform for all the virtual meeting branches. Thank you, one and all, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Kama, sir. Good night.
Thank you, Chandru. Thank you, Anna.
Good night. Good night. ಅದು ನೀನೇ ಲಾಗೌಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡು.
ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಎಂಡ್ ಮಾಡು.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you. Harsha, thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Good night.
ನಾನೇ ಎಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಾ?
ಎಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಸರ್.